Hi everyone, my name is Fons Jacobs and welcome back to another feature episode on the Band of Insiders podcast. This week we're not going to talk about AI, although I have to say AI is definitely a part of the story, but it's not the main part of the story. I think what we're going to talk about today is something a lot of marketeers and brands have forgotten. Of course, AI has taken over all of our social media feeds and the discourse over the last 2 years or more, but it doesn't mean it's the only trend and revolution that is happening. This week, we're going to talk about something that is very close to my heart, as it's one of my biggest hobbies. The opportunity for brands is there, and I think it's a perfect time to dive into what is happening in terms of this industry and how brands can still benefit from it. So without further ado, let's jump right in. What we want to talk about today is actually the state of gaming in 2025 and how it still is the biggest cultural platform on earth. I love video games. Everyone who listens to this and or knows me will probably know that I do. I started with Game Boys and Nintendos and took it to another level when online multiplayer gaming started on PC. I spent countless hours playing a game called Medal of Honor Allied Assault. Funny side story, the team behind that game split after an internal dispute. One side stayed with EA Games to continue the Medal of Honor games, while the others left to create a new title called Call of Duty. The rest, as they say, is history. I was about 12, 13, 14 years old when I spent all this time playing this game. It was also my first introduction to online gaming and was, via a tool called TeamSpeak, speaking directly with people from all over the world. I think there are two things that taught me my initial English. Donald Duck, yes, and playing Medal of Honor Allied Assault with an international crew, or clan as we called it then. I don't think the term esports was very serious back then, but that is what we did. We would have training sessions and actual matches against other clans in order to climb a certain ladder of clans from all over the world. Great times. Online multiplayer gaming also showed that gaming was going to be way more than kids locking themselves up in their bedrooms to play hours of games all by themselves. But who would have thought then that it would become so big as it is today? Fast forward a little bit to now. When COVID hit and the gaming numbers obviously absolutely exploded, many brands got interested in this industry. I argued then, and I still do now, but for different reasons, that brands were looking at gaming in a completely wrong way. This point of view landed me my job at MediaMonks, and this is what I started preaching. Brands looked at esports as gaming, meaning sponsor an esports team, like you would sponsor a football team, and they thought they had covered the industry, and with that grabbed the opportunity. I strongly disagreed. Esports was big and growing very fast, especially then, but it was only a tiny fraction of how big gaming actually was. It very much hit me when, during lockdown, Call of Duty was finally updating their wildly popular game mode called Warzone. Right before they did, they proudly announced that they had 100 million active players. A massive amount. But at the moment of the launch, me and my friends, and everyone was playing back then, were all ready to update and jump into this new map. But their servers couldn't handle it, and I tuned in to my favorite streamer on Twitch called Nick Merckx. He was playing the new map and peaked at more than 100,000 live viewers, an incredible number. But this is also when it hit me. Only a few of my friends who were playing Call of Duty actively, went to Twitch to watch a streamer play the game. The rest, who didn't know about them, just stopped trying to play. But also, too, more important, Nick Merckx, one of the biggest streamers on the planet at that point, only reached 100,000 people. The servers were unplayable, so how could we reach that other, let's say 99 million people in total? This was my point. Brands were focused on those 100,000 people, figuratively speaking, and not on the 99 million that you couldn't reach through streamers or esports. While lots has happened since then, gaming became bigger and bigger over the last 5 years, and I think many brands eventually saw the opportunity. But then there was AI. AI took over public discourse. Our LinkedIn and social feeds are filled with it, and it is the top priority for every brand and company out there. Logically so. I totally agree. The same happened to my LinkedIn post, to be honest. It's a lot of AI, and then there's some room for other stuff I'm interested in. Before that, it was also a lot of gaming content as well. But did gaming slow down? Well, I can tell you it definitely did not. A great reason to do a small deep dive into the state of gaming 6 weeks before the end of 2025. I'm going to break down gaming in 4 different sections, all relevant for business leaders, brand builders, and marketeers. The sections: 1. The numbers, 2. The players, 3. The cultural moments, and 4. Of course, gaming and AI. Now, let's start with the numbers. While everyone was chasing AI headlines, the gaming industry quietly reminded us who still runs the attention economy. According to Newzoo, the global games market will hit $188.8 billion in 2025, up 3.4% from last year. Many thought that maybe gaming would have to recover a bit and numbers would come down after the major explosion during COVID. It did not. It kept on growing. As a reminder, gaming is still larger than film and music combined. Almost 3.6 billion people around the world now identify as gamers. That's nearly half the planet. Although the industry's growth might seem small or normal at 3%, there are still records being broken. Again, something that wasn't really expected after such an explosion during COVID. In August 2025, Roblox hit a new all-time high of 47.3 million concurrent players, setting a record for most concurrent players ever on any platform. Let that sink in. 47 million people logged in at the same time across one platform. That's more than the entire population of Spain all playing together at once. It broke Steam's record from earlier this year, who reached 41 million concurrent players in March. And reminded everyone that gaming's momentum didn't disappear when the metaverse hype cooled off. It just went quiet and kept growing. And it's not just volume. Roblox now counts around 380 million active users, up more than 15% from last year. For context, that's almost 3 times the size of TikTok's US user base. Steam's daily traffic, meanwhile, continues to climb, reflecting a core truth that many outside the industry still underestimate. People don't just play games, they live in them. 2025 also turned out to be a record-setting year for gaming's mergers and acquisitions. The biggest shockwave came when Electronic Arts was acquired outright by a Saudi-backed private equity consortium in a deal valued at $55 billion, the largest buyout in gaming history according to the Associated Press. What was once one of America's most iconic gaming companies, home to EA Sports FC, Battlefield, and The Sims, officially changed ownership, marking a symbolic power shift in where global entertainment capital now sits. Only weeks later, Niantic Labs, the studio behind the super successful game Pokémon Go, announced the sale of its gaming division to Scopely, a company also backed by Saudi Arabia's Savvy Games Group, for roughly $3.5 billion. Together, these 2 acquisitions define 2025's tone. Gaming is no longer just an entertainment business, but also a global infrastructure play, where nations and investors are buying cultural influence as much as intellectual property. And last but not least, beyond free games like Fortnite and Roblox, people still pay a lot of money and actually buy games. The latest major successful release is the new Battlefield, a franchise that always lost to Call of Duty, but this year it seems like the hype is on their side. When it launched on October 10th, 2025, Battlefield 6 sold over 7 million copies in its first 3 days, setting a new sales record for the franchise. On Steam, the open beta peaked at over 521,000 concurrent players, the highest mark the series has ever hit on the platform. And early post-launch numbers show the title hitting 704,000 concurrent players on Steam within an hour of release, making it one of Electronic Arts' biggest launches to date on that platform. Now, let's talk about the players. A lot of people still have major misconceptions when it comes to the type of person that consider themselves gamers. If you haven't let go of those by now, you definitely should. Let me share some fascinating statistics proving that gaming is for everybody, meaning gaming can also be for every brand. Let's start with the misconception that gaming is just for young people. Also in 2025, this is definitely wrong. For example, the average gamer in the United States is now 36 years old. The Entertainment Software Association, or ESA, reports that 60% of US adults ages 18 plus play video games weekly. It also does not stop at a certain age level, with nearly half of boomers aged 61 to 79 and 36% of the silent generation aged 80 to 90 playing video games weekly. That's wild, even for me. But yes, the younger they are, the more they play. The numbers for Generation Alpha, kids aged 5 to 12 years old, are staggering, with 83% playing video games weekly. Another thing that might surprise a lot of people is the split between male and female players. A lot of people, and definitely brands, think gaming is just for boys, but the data shows it's clearly not. Gender splits are essentially balanced now. US players are about 52% male and 47% female. Globally, this number is almost identical, with sources showing that at least 45% of the global gaming player base is female, and it's been growing steadily over the years. And last but not least, gaming has never been as social as it is now. 72% of teens who play video games say that the reason why they play them is to spend time with others. And 47% even made a friend online from playing with them. Again, for brands, marketeers, it's not a question if your target audience plays video games, it's just a matter of how they play and how many there are. So let's talk about the culture. Gaming is everywhere. It's a major driver of pop culture and the signs are still undeniable. Let's start with the anticipation for what probably will be the biggest game release ever, GTA 6. The original trailer released last year and has 268 million views on YouTube. The second trailer released 6 months ago and got 100 million views in just 4 days. On Instagram and TikTok, if there's a news event, there's always someone saying in the comments, we got XYZ before GTA 6. Because yes, GTA 6 has been delayed twice already. That means there will be almost 2 full years of hype, of cultural connection before the game actually releases. Have you ever seen such anticipation for a movie, album, or anything else? I definitely have not. Fortnite also had major cultural crossovers this year, as always. During COVID, it was Travis Scott that broke all records with his show Inside Fortnite. An example was probably overused for a while. I'm definitely one of those people that used it way too long. This does not mean the hype slowed down. In the last few months alone, Fortnite announced 2 major music groups joining the Fortnite stable with unique music experiences. First, it was the legendary group Gorillaz, and then the iconic duo Daft Punk. The Daft Punk experience brings 31 songs from the duo's catalog to the game, plus immersive club-inspired rooms, costumes featuring the band's iconic helmets, and more. But not only music has had successful crossovers with Fortnite this year. In November 2025, Fortnite pulled off one of its biggest cultural crossovers of the year with The Simpsons. The event transformed the game's map into Springfield Island, complete with Homer, Marge, and Bart skins, and tie-in mini-episodes on Disney+. Something I found very interesting, that they connect a game to an actual episode that you can stream on Disney+. Within 48 hours, Epic Games recorded its highest number of new and returning players since the previous holiday season, peaking at roughly 2.6 million concurrent players. It was a reminder that no one merges brands, nostalgia, and skill quite like Fortnite. Now, gaming and AI. Gaming is obviously also going to be affected by AI and in more ways than one. By the way, quick side note, before Nvidia became the most valuable company in the world, worth over $5 trillion in 2025 at one point, and arguably the most important player of the AI age, let's not forget how they started. Nvidia was built for gamers. Their first products were GPU chips designed specifically to make games run faster and look better. The same company now powering the world's AI infrastructure once sold graphic cards to make Quake smoother. And in a full circle moment, Nvidia is right back in gaming. Only this time, it's not about pixels, it's about intelligence. Their ECE, Avatar Cloud Engine, is already being integrated into titles like PUBG. It is called PUBG Ally, giving players AI-driven companions and NPCs, non-playable characters, that can hold natural, unscripted conversations. PUBG Ally interacts with players and other characters and navigates the environment like a real human. PUBG Ally is aware of its surroundings, adjusting its playstyle based on your commands and emergent situations, making human-like decisions to support you, looting items and fighting other combatants, all without continuous prompting from the player. Meaning, you can actually talk in normal language through your microphone to this AI and it will execute things on your behalf. A true ally. Meanwhile, AI isn't just changing how we play, it's also changing who can build. Roblox's new suite of AI creation tools now lets users type prompts in plain language to code, build, and texture their own games. You can describe what you want. For example, create a forest with a hidden cave and glowing mushrooms, and Roblox AI will generate it instantly. These tools also include text-to-speech, speech-to-text, and real-time voice translation, lowering the barrier to entry for millions of aspiring creators. Anyone, regardless of technical skills, can now turn imagination into a playable experience. Professional studios are also clearly adopting generative AI in their workflows. In August 2025, a Google Cloud and Harris Poll study found that 87% of developers already use AI tools in production, and 94% believe it cuts costs and accelerates timelines. In other words, AI is no longer an experiment in gaming, but closer to actual standard practice. Now let's talk about gaming for brands. I want to urge every marketeer, every brand person to not forget about gaming. I hope that all that we just discussed showed that gaming is not slowing down. There's an old saying in marketing that goes, go where your audience is. Well, you guessed it. Your audience is gaming. But it's not only that. If you only focus on putting your brand or ads in video games, you're missing the bigger cultural impact that gaming has. You need to open up your brand for play. That is the way to go. Gaming is not just a marketing strategy, it's a way of building. Younger audiences don't want to be spectators. They want to interact, remix, and express themselves through the worlds and IPs they love. As I already argued in 2022 when I was interviewed by the online marketing medium called Little Black Book, this generation doesn't separate fandoms or brands. They mix Marvel with Dragon Ball, Nike with Fortnite, and create something new. The idea of strict brand control is outdated and is not working for younger generations. To stay relevant, brands must start treating their IPs like creative playgrounds instead of guarded castles. Provide tools, not rules, is one of my favorite sayings. Let people make your world part of theirs through avatars, collaborations, or fan-made spaces. Because when consumers can play with your brand, they can make it their own. And that is what builds long-term loyalty in the digital era. Now let me leave you with some closing thoughts. My opinion has not changed, it only got stronger. Gaming is the most important way for brands to interact with new and younger audiences. I see a similar trajectory as for social media. At first, social media was just being tested, not taken serious, just be there and that's enough. Now, every brand has a major social media strategy and it is probably the most important part of their business. This will happen for gaming as well, and the brands who understand this best will win. But don't make the mistake that so many brands do. Don't think that by just sponsoring an esports team or doing something with one game ticks your "we in gaming" box. Gaming is enormous. It consists of hundreds of different audiences and communities. Even within a game like Fortnite, there's at least 3 to 4 different types of players you can connect with as a brand. But that is for a later podcast. In a world built on participation, gaming isn't just where culture happens. It is the culture. This was it for this week. I hope you enjoyed it and learned something new. I was definitely in awe when I saw some of the numbers and the records that are being broken by gaming this year. And I'm very excited for where gaming is heading as an industry. I can only say keep an eye out for gaming. Don't underestimate it. And if you want to talk about it more, just send me a quick message at funds@hey.com. I'll leave it at that for now. Thanks again for tuning in for this week. And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe. Give us 5 stars on your favorite podcast platforms or wherever you are listening or watching. This is Fons Jacobs, Band of Insiders podcast, and see you again next week. Peace.